All right, welcome to this explainer. If you've ever looked at your audience and thought, man, this just feels like a passive list of followers, well, you're in the right place. We're about to experience a major paradigm shift today. We're going to completely change how you view brand communities. We're literally taking them out of that dusty, nice-to-have marketing tactic pile and putting them exactly where they belong, right at the very center of your core business assets. Let's get into it.
So, I want you to think about this question for a second. Why do people answer customer support tickets at 2 in the morning entirely for free? Seriously, nobody is paying them a dime. They're actually sacrificing their own sleep just to help a total stranger fix a software glitch or answer a product question. It's kind of crazy, right? But this mystery highlights a really profound truth. We are not just talking about racking up followers on a feed here. We're talking about a very real, very powerful sociological phenomenon.
Okay, here's our roadmap for today. First, we'll be defining brand communities, then looking at the business of belonging, how to actually build a community, the rented land trap, and finally, owning your digital home. We're going to dismantle some tired old marketing myths and build some modern business architecture, moving completely away from rented attention and towards owned belonging. All right, Section 1, defining brand communities. Let's start by grounding this big buzzword in some actual academic sociology from researchers Muñez and Ogwin, who were looking at this way before social media was even a thing. They define a brand community as a specialized, non-geographically bound community based on a structured set of social relations among admirers of a brand. Now, what's incredibly fascinating about this research is a core marker that sociologists call shared moral responsibility. And guess what? This is exactly what solves our 2 a.m. customer support mystery. It's that deep, felt duty to the group that makes people defend your brand in comment sections or, show up to product launches that absolutely nobody paid them to attend. But here's the thing, and this is where most companies get it entirely wrong. A Harvard Business Review study points out a really dangerous myth, the idea that a brand community is just a marketing strategy. The reality? It is absolutely a core business strategy. If you try treating your community like some temporary campaign, it's going to fail. Just look at the cautionary tale of Porsche's 2002 Cayenne launch. They tried pushing a top-down marketing narrative for their brand new SUV, and their entrenched, hardcore community of 911 owners literally rejected it outright. The lesson here? A community owned by one campaign manager will die the second that budget cycle ends. Moving right along to Section 2, the business of belonging. It's time to address that CFO credibility gap and prove this is a hard, measurable business asset. So the whole argument really comes down to these absolute mic drop metrics. Customer retention, that jumps a whopping 40%. Customer spend increases by 24%, and your customer acquisition costs actually drops by 32%. I mean, this is the retention delta and revenue growth that will absolutely win your budget debates. Community isn't just about warm fuzzies, guys. It is a massive, tangible multiplier for your bottom line. And David Spinks's species framework brilliantly illustrates exactly how that happens. This model shows how community activities map directly to your P&L line items. Support to flex costs, product ideation drives faster revenue, acquisition brings in net new signups. It's like a giant puzzle coming together. When you pick just one primary outcome per quarter and track a couple of laser-focused KPIs, you can actually hand your leadership a monthly community P&L that proves real, undeniable monetary value. Okay, Section 3, how to build a community. Let's transition over to the playbook and look at the actual architectural models for designing this kind of belonging. So there are 3 main forms of affiliation: pools, webs, and hubs. Now, there's a funny little absurdity here. Ironman triathletes and political parties actually share the exact same fragile pool structure. They're strongly bound to a central idea, sure, but weakly bound to each other. So your strategic move, always, is to convert a pool into a web, where members develop strong one-to-one relationships with each other. A web is basically a defensive moat that a competitor's massive ad budget simply cannot buy. But as you're building that web, you've got to keep this magic number in mind: 14%. Just 14% of your members are going to produce 70% of your discussions. This participation inequality means you have to design your community scripts specifically for these power users. You want to build the deep, meaningful patio for real connection, rather than just opening up a huge, noisy bar where you sort of cross your fingers and hope deep relationships magically form. Because of that power user dynamic, you really need a counterintuitive but highly actionable 90-day launch sequence. The biggest rookie mistake? A massive empty launch. Don't do it. Instead, start with step 1, found your community with just 10 to 30 hand-picked members.
Then move to step 2, ritualize, by establishing some recurring rhythms. Next up is step 3, delegate, which means promoting your early moderators from within. And only at step 4, around day 76 or so, do you open it up to the public. Trust me on this, seeding a small, high-quality culture is infinitely better than swinging the doors open to a giant, completely empty room. Which brings us to section 4, the rented land trap. This is really the narrative climax where we uncover the fatal flaw of modern community building. The contrast here is incredibly stark. Social media, that's rented attention. It's throttled by algorithms and optimizes purely for cheap engagement. Brand communities, on the other hand, are about owned belonging. They give you data sovereignty and they optimize for compounding connection. So I really want to challenge you right now. Are you just a free content supplier for centralized tech giants who are only optimizing for attention? Or are you actually building belonging for your own brand? To put it as bluntly as possible, you've built a community about your brand on infrastructure that belongs to someone else's brand. Let that sink in. Building your most valuable business asset on Mark Zuckerberg's rented land isn't just a philosophical error. It is a massive, massive failure of asset protection. You don't own the relationship, you don't own the behavioral data, and you don't even own the environment. And that leads us perfectly into section 5, owning your digital home. Now, the good news here is that the technological barrier to actually owning your infrastructure has completely collapsed. Enter Atrium by Linkspreed. This is what we call Social Network as a Service, or SNAS. It basically gives you 100% white-label data ownership with zero cost of entry and a 0% take rate. And the coolest part? It has an AI-assisted 60-second deployment. Literally, no IT department required. Atrium basically acts as a free, decentralized digital home where you fully own the API, the data, and the relationships. You can completely bypass the need for a 6-figure engineering budget just to run your community strategy. Look, your customers are already out there forming a community about your brand somewhere. So I'm going to leave you with this final provocative thought to really cement this paradigm shift. Are your customers gathering in your Atrium or someone else's feed? It's time to claim your digital destiny. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning and go start building your own digital home.